Good evening, everyone. Welcome here. It's a chilling with session. A wonderful Wednesday night. Almost had a boomer moment in the background with unmuted tabs. Makes everybody's life. You get it triple stereoed, but hey, it's awesome. Normally, I talk for 10 minutes and ramble and all this stuff, but I got to be efficient tonight with time because we have got a superstar of YouTube coming in tonight. Every time to get to hang with this guy, it's a pleasure and honor have a, to have around. And let me just go straight to it. It's the Great Culture Casino. Howdy, my friend.
Wait a minute. Is Nerdrotic showing up? Because that was a big buildup for just little old me. But I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, my friend. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm limited on time, but there was no way I was going to miss a chance to talk with you. So thanks for having me. I consider it an honor, my friend. So,
Always a pleasure to have you on. And I just a little background for you. The background that you see, the red and
yeah,
the white.
yeah,
Well, this, you remember a movie called Cocaine Bear?
I do.
Well, this is the background the missus and I had on our stream that when she and I did a little movie review. So we got the
Ah,
blood spattered background behind us. I thought it would liven it up a little bit tonight.
well, it's actually going to be somewhat poignant about with the discussion we're going to have because there's definitely some blood involved in what we're going to talk about. So it'll be a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. And like I said, good to see you. And we got one person out here. We got 5 watching, but we got WKEG Gaming. Yo, damn man, what's up? Well, yo, WKEG Gaming. Good to see you. I believe he's over on the other side of the world,
Oh wow.
either South Africa or Australia. I'm not sure. I don't remember offhand, but yes, that's what's so amazing with all these time zones and stuff like that. You can find yourself streaming at 2 o'clock in the morning and reach somebody on the other side of the planet. Wonders of modern technology. So good to see you, my friend, here with that. So, Culture, what have you got going on these days? Australia. There we go. We know lots of
Hey,
Australians. Yes.
we love our Aussies. We feel like you guys were one of the countries that were closest to our model. So,
Yeah.
but closest in our appreciation of freedom and just absolute liberty. But no, what's going on with me? I'm still doing my weekday morning show, which is the 6 minute daily, which on Tuesdays and Thursdays is a little bit long. Usually over an hour now, and then on I know it's increasingly misnamed. Let's just be fair about it. But
Yep.
the 6 minute daily is actually 12 and a half minutes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at least. And when you boomer it, it goes longer. Today was bad. But let's see. Oh, and then I do, several videos a week. And then I do other live streams. Sunday night's always the fun one. It gets out of hand and
Mm-hmm.
people are very generous with super chats and I'm just starting to roll out the new merch and I'm working with some new merch companies and it's just big stuff. I'm very excited about, doing that and pretty soon I will finally be able to reveal the hair and body care products, so I'll be able to
Oh my
to do
gosh.
that. I'm going to do some videos on my process for maintaining my hair so that I can donate it about every
Yep.
18 months. So yeah,
Well, I know your hair is the topic of conversation
it is.
everywhere.
It
The
is.
envy of all men, and I think the ladies want to rub their hands through it. So,
It's very weird. I will admit this that I do get people coming up and touching my hair at the meetups that we have in various locations. So, uh,
oh my
uh,
goodness.
it's fine. I mean, and the people are like, "Oh, it's so soft." I'm like, "Yeah, just take care of
It's
your hair." I'm like, it's. Here's the thing: don't put a lot of product in it. You don't need it. Unless you're going for a specific style, which I get. And don't take a hair dryer to your hair unless it's absolutely necessary
yeah.
because it just tears it up. Yeah, if you reduce buildup and you build protein, you can have hair for days and it won't break. It'll just keep growing. You limit split ends. I mean, it's all basic stuff, guys.
Mhm.
Basic.
Absolutely. Well, we've had a few more people slip in. We got
Hello.
6 watching us, and the missus
Hey.
is here. Hello. And Balzette is coming in saying hi. So, welcome,
Oh,
Balzette. Glad to have
oh,
you all with us tonight. So, as we say, let's on the Twitch side, make sure you follow us over there. And like and subscribe. Hit that like button, subscribe on the YouTube side. We just hit the 250 mark.
Oh,
Had a riotous party show last night, dude. We
oh,
just came on with me. We started for maybe about an hour, just impromptu, with just maybe babbling for an hour. Got up over 20 people in the chat at one time. Got 30 likes. I mean, it was like 70 something views by the time we finished, and went 3 hours. It was like, it was one of those streams that caught fire and went on. It was like the all night party that wouldn't stop. So love
I
it.
am. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. It takes forever to build a channel. It really does. So
Well,
keep at it.
well,
Keep
thank
at
you.
it.
And I started first stream was August 19th. So
Wow,
nine months will be September 19th. So
that's amazing.
that's what
Mm.
that's what people tell me. And I guess I don't have enough experience to put it in proper context, but thank you. And it's good. And like I tell everybody, the, especially love having all the viewers, whether it's 5 up to 20 now, they are what make the streaming special. It's like an interaction and a bond, and just kind of be able to talk to friends and make them laugh, especially when I run around like a dad man playing Fortnite. So blowing up gas stations and stuff. So, all righty, folks. Well, hey, um, let's go ahead and get started, culture. We're going to talk about something that we're going to talk about here a little bit. The One of the things we were going to talk about tonight was about taxpayer funding in sports stadiums,
Yeah.
and the way to transition into that was a story that we found out. You have it everywhere, because I know the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the process of renovating a stadium, so
Yeah.
that's a local debate, part of a mayoral campaign. Who's going to support who, because you got to deal with the logistics for moving. When you play when the stadium's renovated, but how much state local funding? Well, there's a big story out in California now. We all know that the Los Angeles Raiders, well, I guess they moved back to Oakland 25 years ago. Now they moved to Las Vegas. Now the Oakland A's are now moving to in the plans to move to Las Vegas themselves. So a new story out is the A's reached a formal agreement for a new stadium at a second Vegas site. What had happened is a few days last month they had actually agreed on one site. Well, they entered into a new deal, and we'll take a look at the article. The Bally's announced Monday that in conjunction with Gaming Leisure Properties, they reached a binding agreement with the Oakland Athletics to build the franchise's new ballpark on a portion of current Tropicana property on the southern end of the Strip in Vegas.
Yep.
Which is so funny. The missus and I went to Vegas once with a family for an electronics convention. Mm-hmm. We stayed at the Tropicana Hotel. So it's like the one time we went, we had a view of the Strip. We had a view of the airstrip, the airport behind it. So
yeah, McCarran Airport. Yep.
Well, it's funny. My sister wanted everybody to view the Strip, but we were newlyweds and we wanted away from everybody. But
good choice.
Exactly, away from family. But of course, the article talks about the excitement of bringing another team in there. But this is the second agreement they entered into. The first was for 49 acres on land owned by Red Rock Resorts. But in that case, the process lagged. They said partly because of a $500 million in public funding that was part of the proposed $1 billion project. So they began process of looking out for other owners and stuff. The new agreement undoes the previous deal, and so it starts this deal. The plans are contingent on Nevada legislature approving a 9-figure tax package to assist with the stadium's construction, although GLPI has agreed to fund up to $175 million towards, quote, certain shared improvements within future development in exchange for a commensurate rent increase. So what we talk about with this article, and another thing is, if you want to get about the size, a 30,000 seat ballpark, oh my gosh, that's a small ballpark.
It's not very big.
No, it's not. But I mean, but they still think that'll bring about 2.5 million fans and visitors annually. But for that kind of money, that's 30,000 is a very small crowd.
Yep.
Yeah. And let me say hello to O.C. Dobbins.
Hey,
O.C. And I did email you today, so hopefully you got that. but yeah, like this story, and like we touched a little bit about the taxpayer financing of public stadiums and stuff.
Right.
You know, it's a touchy issue. You know, especially if you got an economy that's in decline. You know, potential recessionary effects. Uh, you know, you know, the pressure that's on these sports teams to get more government money, and the pressure on the governments to either pony over or not pony over.
Right.
What kind of thoughts do you have on this issue? I'll just let me
Well,
throw it out general.
oftentimes these are terrible deals for whatever municipality it is. It never works out the way it is. Many states have built multiple stadiums to accommodate multiple different types of sporting events. The problem is if you get multiple sporting events in the same building, you're better off. But they absolutely hate that. They don't want to share that space. And the problem is purpose built stadiums sit dormant a lot of the time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can get them for other events and things like that. But if you build a purpose-built stadium for the only 30,000 people, what are you gonna do? Put a truck rally in there? I mean, a monster truck thing. I mean, you're not gonna want to do
Yeah.
that very often, and you certainly can't do that anytime near a football season. So this is a location that's gonna 20 weeks a year will be in use, and then the other 32 weeks it's gonna sit empty or have limited use. And if you have a multi-sport, let's say you can combine a football and a baseball stadium, it's going to hold way more people, of course. Um, and B, I mean, you're gonna be able to keep that building full year round. And yeah, you'll have to convert it between baseball and football, but we've already seen, how that can be done. We've seen it. We've seen how you can have fields that are retractable, like it rolls in and out of the building. I think they did that in Arizona. They're doing it. They've done it in a couple other places. I think not specifically in the States, but
Mm-hmm.
not building a bunch of stadiums because teams are fickle. Um, you can lose a team. I mean, a team can change cities on you. I mean, this has already happened. You had the 49ers, look at what they're going to do with what they've done. You look at, the Giants, you look at these teams that get fickle, want to move, and then you're kind of screwed. I mean, San Diego has
Yeah.
had a perfectly good football stadium, and then they didn't have a football team anymore.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. And a baseball park, 30,000 people with attendance right now, that might be a reasonable number. But consider this: they just built the black hole, the for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Basically on the same part of the strip area. I mean,
Right.
it's right off of the freeway.
And from what I read, and it might be in this other article that I have for us to look at too, is that took like $750 million of taxpayer money too,
Yeah,
part of
and,
a
and
$1 billion
it's
project.
yeah, it's not. And I mean, the complex area around it can be busy year round. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But like I said, there's a lot of times when there's no
Yeah.
financial return equivalent to what is spent on these. And of
Yeah.
course, we talk about the states, and that's kind of the conversation here. But you have ridiculous stadium projects all around the world, and that I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into later. That
Yep.
there's no guaranteed upside, and that's the problem with public funds. I
Well,
really
see,
I really feel that it's difficult.
yeah, and see, this is the problem that I have with public funds is when the teams get, uh, they really control it because they got everybody over the barrel because who doesn't want the MLB team or who doesn't want the NFL team? It's a prestige. I know, like small markets like Jacksonville is one that, everybody's so afraid they're going to move to London or go somewhere else because there's always that threat of, well, if y'all don't come, settle for an inferior product. Many times, you're supposed to just go like it because it's there, and you know stadium is a big issue too. Everybody wants a state of the art system and if stadium, and if you don't have it, then somebody else is going to give it to you. One of the pressures is government versus government. You might have one government that says, hey, this is not worth it, but they're going to get beaten by the market because there's another government that's out there willing to jump in, take it. Well, like Disney, for example, when the governor of South Carolina says, hey, move here, you got that with sports teams too. You got, it's kind of funny how money gets thrown around, especially if you're approaching an economic slowdown. See, where I think that there could be better benefits is making the sports combined into a multi-purpose facility. A lot of the stadiums of the 70s and 80s were that way. I remember Riverfront Stadium, the Bengals played there, and the Reds played there. Pittsburgh, same thing with the Pirates and the Steelers. There was, in that case, you could see more value from a public dollar standpoint because you've got more usage out of your facility. And I think what your point is that if you're not careful, you end up with something that'll just sit there for a while unused, unless you're good at booking it.
I look at this as a boondoggle for many states.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you're held at gunpoint to by some of these teams as a municipality can't be argued. You made a lot of great points. I don't like the idea that a stadium is being treated like a road or a freeway or, a public facility, because it's not. You can't, as a citizen, your tax dollars are being spent there. Can you use that stadium anytime you want?
Nope.
No. And that's a real problem. And sometimes the teams have skin in the game, perhaps.
Yeah.
But the revenue's all on their side of the equation because they sell the concessions out, and they benefit from the concession sales, not specifically, but from the companies they license those concessions to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all being underwritten by public funds. It's very uncomfortable for me, and it always has been. Of course, some of that speaks to my politics, but I don't think the expense is commiserate with the return in revenue. I just don't. Nobody's been able. Financial impact studies have always been slanted when it comes to this, because you're like, well, you have a football stadium. You're gonna have 55,000, 60,000 people in this one area. 8, 10, maybe 12 times a year at best, right? And you get a Super Bowl once every how many years, potentially, possibly, unless your politics change, and then the league screws you, right? If your politics aren't in line with the league, you get screwed out of your event. That just happened in Atlanta for baseball. They put it in a terrible location in Denver, right? So you look at it and you go, all right, these people are not, they're not principled. They don't live up to the bond that they have because they can change the rules at any time. And then where did the value go that was promised to the taxpayers? Well, we're going to get a Super Bowl. That's worth about, $750 million once every 5 or 6 years. Is it?
Well, and who really benefits from that? Because we saw that locally. They had to bring cruise ships in to make up for the hotels, but the rank and file little guy, even the local restaurants never really saw any benefit from it.
No,
it's like that carrot that or the Don Quixote chasing the windmills. They always promise you, and they have all these platitudes and these high dreams to get you on board to get that fever going, and everybody chases it. But when reality hits, it's kind of ugly because a lot of people lost money on some of those ventures. They're supposed to be a guaranteed killing.
Well, and that's the other problem, because again, there is no guarantee when it comes to these things, and it's visited upon a lot of different sports, and it's global. That's the other problem. People are having their treasuries raided at times for sports.
Yep, exactly. Like we said, potential economic worldwide conditions going down,
Yeah. and priorities,
and priorities, what are your priorities? Food or clothing or, a job? Or, what are your priorities? And, that's where you start to get into entertainment. And let me say hello to Bone. Hey, Bone, welcome in. Welcome in, my friend. So, culture, we'll go to the next article that we got here with this is that it's related to this article is hey, guess what? They're going to actually ask for less public money this time. Okay. The New Deal involves a lower public funding request, I think from a half a billion down to $395 million. So, they're cutting a deal. Uh, so with the new agreement, it's a 1.5 billion stadium, man, for 30,000 people. That's when we start talking numbers like that, that's where I start losing it. Because for 1.5 billion, I want to put 100,000 people in it or something. But why does it have to be so expensive to build these things? I'm personally, I'm more like the good old 1960s, 70s stadiums that had the erector sets, all the metal bleachers, no chair back, basic no frills, make it cheap for people to go and afford it. But now everything's like a advanced site. But they said $1.5 billion stadium going to seek a public financing of $395 million. Now, this article has a 35,000 seat stadium, but 35,000 in the scope of a stadium really does not make a difference there. Like the article says, that they were initially seeking legislative support for $500 million involving tax credits. Hey, guess what? The creation of a special taxation district. Where we heard those before. Yep. To help fund stadium construction. And then they announced a binding agreement with Red Rock Resorts, which was the first deal that has now been replaced with this one. But they would not have to pay land acquisition costs. But the Bally's pays gaming and leisure $10.5 million under a 50-year lease agreement. So, but yeah, hey, we talked about here in Florida with that special taxing districts and stuff. It's amazing how these things come up and wow, oh gosh. Oh, I do remember these things from when we were there. The walking escalators.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. So basically they're still going to seek approval from state lawmakers for a financial package, which you would expect. Right. But the details are not there because it's still early. And looking at it also that the construction should begin in 2024 and opening date in 2027 could be pushed back to 2028 based on construction. So they're also constructing a 1,500 room hotel casino across the stadium.
There you go.
So there you go.
That's what it is. I mean, and that's where it comes from, right? Is the they can reduce it. They're getting a sweetheart deal on the land at what is it, $10.5 million a year. At that point, I mean, you're largely spending money to construct facilities around the building as well. But they don't have a lot of time to make this go. It looks like they've got 28 days left in the legislative session, so there's not a lot of time to finish that up. But look, I mean, that's a prime location. It puts it right next to the airport. I mean, you just talked about it. It's literally right next to the airport. So if that stadium goes there, and you've got Elon Musk expanding his hyper tunnel thing or whatever it is, his underground transportation system that pretty much everywhere on the strip. I mean, you're going to see massive expansion of that. You're going to see, obviously, that hotel is going to be huge. That's going to be right there.
They have underground transportation.
Yeah. Tesla was testing his boring company Hyperloop technology there. And so they have giant tunnels underground, and that network's going to basically go to every single Vegas casino property on the main strip now.
How long has that been in existence?
Well, it exists for several miles, not the entire strip at the moment, but it's been there for maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. Yeah, the basically you ride in Teslas that are they're self-driving Teslas or underground. So there you go.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow, that's interesting because see, when we went was the late '90s or mid to late '90s. So definitely a completely different world
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the main strip is like massively expanded, and Bally's is probably looking to capitalize on this in an entirely different way. Believe me, I don't think they'll have any great losses. And Bally's is currently owned by Caesars Entertainment Group. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Well, Bone is saying that sports financing should be separate from public services.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree.
Well,
100%.
you know, we see where the lines get blurred. We talked about it with the Disney and Reedy Creek and that whole thing down there, which is still coming to fruition, and we're learning more about. You know, where's the truth? What's really actual happening is, you know, if you start blurring the lines between the corporate and the politics and everything else, you know, it's gets really really murky, and you know, really the lawyers benefit in those cases. I mean, really, it's like a lawyer employ full employment act, you know.
Well, and
So.
that's an entirely other subject. Get me started on lawyering, but
And
I
hi, Lisa.
I look at it and I'm like I said, the examples we've used so far are going to be here in the United States, but there's these are never almost never good deals. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, consider this: they built a lot of purpose built facilities for a lot of different sports,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you build a hockey rink.
Yeah.
How much use is that honestly going to get? Like every once in a while, there's like ice capades or Disney on Ice or some such. Maybe you get some junior hockey teams to use it, but they probably don't get any revenue from that.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, I know that some of the hockey facilities double for the indoor football leagues, right? Or for uh, not highlight. What the hell is that? The game with the stick in the ball. My brain's not working.
Not croquet. The highlights. The
Yeah,
highlights more
highlights
the
and
gambling. Yeah.
yeah, it's completely different. No, it's oh my gosh. There's cross checking and it's very similar to hockey, but you're
Oh,
running
field.
on.
Was it the field hockey?
No.
Uh,
You hold the stick and you wing the ball around. Oh my
lacrosse.
goodness,
Lacrosse.
the
Yes. There you
lacrosse.
go.
Yeah, there
Thank
you go.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I don't know why my brain's not working, but it's been a
It's
long day.
okay. Yes, it has. But like Bone says, also, what could go wrong with self-driving Teslas underground?
So far,
Oh,
not much. They've had that. It has a really good safety record. Not to mention when it's crazy hot or it's raining, it's a great way to get around the
I
strip.
bet.
So,
I
yeah.
bet. So we got 11 people with us tonight. Thank y'all
Hey
for
guys.
being here. So
Hmm.
like it, follow us on the Twitch side, like and subscribe on
Yeah.
the and go back and watch last night's raucous 3 hour party. It was hilarious. It was just crazy. So, and hello to Buddy Hepburn. I'm going to set you up with a question in a second. Culture, this is the third binding agreement the AS have entered in last month. They're not staying, but we'll see what actually happens. Correct. It's not official, but the way they're working it towards, it's going to go in that direction.
I mean, look, I'm going to tell you right now, and I said this backstage to Dan, man, when we were visiting. That stadium the current stadium they're in is trash. I mean, it needed to be upgraded, remodeled, rebuilt decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
There is no compelling reason to stay there. None.
Well, let me go transition with Buddy Hepburn here with that comment with what you said with this, because let's see what the the Raiders owner says, because you know the Raiders moved from the Bay Area
Yep.
to uh, Las Vegas a couple years ago, and here's
Yep.
the headline: Raiders Mark Davis blast ace for Oakland move. All they did was beep the Bay Area.
Wow.
Okay, here's what he goes to point this to this degree, because they were asking them about welcoming them over into Vegas, and well, we'll dive into the article, and it starts. Don't expect him to roll out the red carpet. Uh, Here's his quote. One of the quotes he said: "They squatted on a lease for 10 years and made it impossible for us to build on that stadium. They were looking for a stadium. We were looking for a stadium. They didn't want to build a stadium, and then went ahead and signed a 10-year lease with the city of Oakland and said, we're the base team." Talking about the A's.
Wow.
So that forced, so Davis went on to say, quote, all day A's ownership and management was bleep, the Bay Area by negotiating with Oakland government officials in bad faith, increasing leverage for the stadium in Vegas. And he goes on to say further, they market the team as rooted in Oakland, but that's been their mantra through the whole thing, he explained. Quote, slogans they've been using have been a slap in the face of the Raiders, and they were trying to win over that type of mentality in the Bay Area.
Well,
So
that tells you that tells you what the leadership there is, and the guy that's owned the A's has been a cheap piece of POS for a very long period of time. If you get an opportunity to see Moneyball, the film, it'll give you an idea about the mentality of the leadership, ownership mindset of the Oakland A's.
yes, and hey, E. Clay Thomason, welcome. Good to see you tonight. Hey, all right. Got
Who's the hippie in the hat, huh?
the hippie in the hat. Yes.
Not very
Oh,
hippie-ish. Not very hippie-ish.
yeah, I know that hair's too clean to be hippie-ish, but so they say the article goes on. The city of Oakland attempted to engage management, A's management, talks about a new stadium, uh, but it sounds like after news broke, the Oakland mayor issued a statement saying criticizing them the A's for negotiating bad faith to extract a better deal out of Las Vegas for a new stadium. So it still leaves a potential that the A's could stay, but you can see what the Raiders may not have moved, but the Raiders in this case, at least the way you take from this article, is the Raiders felt like they were forced into being the second tenant of the stadium, of having to go look out in their own interest.
Yeah.
They got their deal, moved, and now the A's are now piggybacking after stalling everybody when they could have had two franchises and stay in the Bay Area.
Al bitched about it for years, but look, I don't blame anybody for getting the hell out of the Bay Area with all the problems that they've been having because of the politics around there. Mm-hmm. I mean, now it's a little bit freaky to visit that stadium. So, I mean, there's, like I said, I mean, I can say a lot of bad things about those owners, but
yeah. And the article goes on to further say that the Raiders had spent years attempting to negotiate with Oakland, got nowhere. One proposal was for a 50,000 seat venue that would cost between $800 million to $1.2 billion, but the club wanted $300 million in public funding. Another proposal in 2016 saw Davis seek $400 million in local subsidies, but Oakland. Now, see, Oakland refused provide much assistance, counter with the offering of 60 acres of land and $90 million of infrastructure improvements. Okay, I'm not for that much government with that, but that is kind of that's almost too cheap from the government side. That's kind of really lowballing it big time, though, when you're talking about the type of industry and money involved.
Well, and that would have been two different things. But look, I look at it now, and I think the deal that Mark made to get them into Vegas was good. I think it might have actually been good for Vegas, to be fair. I mean, that stadium has been used for a lot of stuff. I mean, they've had massive concerts and other things. It's one of the few venues that, because of how it was built, it can be very, very multi-purpose. But it wasn't built with any intention of sharing it as a baseball stadium. So they're, no matter what, they're going to have to build a baseball stadium if they want a baseball team. I don't know, but do you really want the A's? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I grew up enjoying the A's and the Athletics, and I like the Bash Brothers. And I mean, I was really, for a lot of various reasons, someday I'll tell everybody why, but I was really a huge baseball fan. I was incredibly invested in the game. And now I might make it to one game a year.
This reminds me of Major League, because you're like, who wants the A's? Well, somebody does because it's MLB, but hey, you suck so bad enough that they want you to move. But
there you go.
But yeah, this goes on to say that in 2016, Nevada Tourism approved $1.9 billion stadium plan that gave at least $750 million in public funding, which went behind the Raiders' move to LA. So that is a huge chunk of change there. Yeah. But Buddy Hepburn's got a point, right? But they both want a new stadium as free as possible.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
look, that land is not going to be redeveloped for any positive reason, most likely, if and when the A's end up leaving. But again, you don't have a lot of time left to get the lawmakers on board with this. We'll have to see what that is.
Yeah, I think they'll if they kick it down to next year, then they'll push it back a year. So, you know,
yeah, and you're right. I mean, the changes at the Coliseum that were forced, but again, the only reason that they moved in the first place was the same reason they moved in the second place. You can't survive well in a stadium that isn't as big as you need for your fan base. The Coliseum was overly large for for the Raiders, but then they moved out again. And now you have, I mean, LA steals teams. I mean, that's true, but at least they actually can afford to pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Vegas is going to be able to pay for football and baseball, and I'm not sure that they need a baseball team. They kind of have. They kind of have a baseball team,
and if they kind of get propped up by the casinos, though, if the casinos are making some money and help them,
maybe. I mean, it's going to be rough.
It seems like a weird city. I mean, yes, it's busy. Yes, it's got casinos in it, but it seems like a weird city to have two major sports right now with hockey.
Hockey, yeah. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I mean, the hockeys are freaking great. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
And by the way, let me say hi to Brian Hepburn because I thought it was Buddy at one point, but hi, Brian. But yeah, so
we got Brian and Buddy in here.
Yep. Yep. Father and son. I know we are limited with time, so I kind of want to make sure we get to a couple things too.
Yeah.
But because what we talked about, because I do want to get to the thing we talked about overseas too, because you touched briefly about other parts of the world and stuff. But see, let's look at things like the Olympics. Take a city like Atlanta. Okay, they built all these things around and all this stuff. Well, they found ways to multi-purpose a lot of them. Some of them. There's still different things now, but what about some of these countries though, where they've actually basically sold their soul, built all these buildings that really get used one time. The government's paid for it, but then you look at what's left after the party.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just the Olympics. I mean, the World Cup is another problem. And so let's enter into a conversation about Brazil specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Because they hosted an Olympics and a World Cup relatively close to each other. But the communities paid so heavily for those. I mean, it's almost indescribable. This is at a time when Brazil was riding high. Their economy was one of the world's strongest because of what they were able to do and exploit and all of that. That's kind of gone away for now for Brazil, unfortunately. So it really exacerbates the issues that they have. Consider this. They spent $550 million on just one of the 12 soccer stadiums that they put in Brazil for the World Cup.
How much was that again?
$550 million.
Wow.
$500 million. Now, you're going to freak out when I tell you this. Do you know what that stadium is now?
Overrun by growth and planters and grass.
It's a parking lot.
Wow.
They took a $550 million stadium and put up a parking lot.
Wow. That's
and again, they could have gotten by. I mean, the World Cup didn't insist on this.
Mm-hmm.
They could have gotten by with fewer stadiums. They did not need 12. And again, one of the cheapest ones was $215 million.
Oh, that's a discount bargain. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, that one was built on the cheap, so cheap that they actually had to close it down entirely. Yeah. And wow. they've been very concerned about its structure.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and that's when you get government financing and I guess some of the dark side, the backroom deals, the fraud, everything that goes in there, construction cuts, contractor profits, that's what's sad, especially over there. At least over here, we have a little bit more in the way of regulation and oversight. But then again, it doesn't always work here. But those stories that you hear over, like in Brazil, are the ones that break your heart because they tore down housing too in some areas, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they tore down favelas where the poorest of the poor lived. I mean,
Wow.
it's absolutely insane. And then you have and again, I mean, these stories, if you go back into like 2014, 2015, it's nuts. And I mean, the favelas are, by the way, are the ghettos in Brazil. They're the cheapest place. And building Olympic Stadium is a great way to launder money. That's 100% true. But then Brazil participated in the Olympics. And they did kind of repurpose a couple of those stadiums, but for the most part, they went on to build more purpose-built white elephants, which is what these things are called by the host countries that end up with them. Buildings that never or rarely get used again. And the other problem is in a massive country like Brazil, right, where they spaced all these stadiums out from each other. They always have companion projects that are essentially money laundering ventures, which included, in this case, an $800 million light rail train from the airport to like one or two of these stadiums or whatever. It was supposed to be 14 miles. They only really completed about a half a mile of the track prior to like that happening. And it's absolutely insane.
Well, we've had some local experience about a project like that. It got more than half a mile, but the promise around town was that it would connect all kind of places downtown to the stadium and things like that. And now it's basically just connects downtown to the stadium to the South Bank hotels. But it's not the big glorious. Everybody, the promise was it'd be going all across the city, bringing people, kind of like what they've done in Central Florida with the light rail and stuff like that. Never got to that point. But
but it gets worse. Every time I look into one of these stories, right, and I look at specifically Brazil, because it was the greatest scam ever run. A lot of the people involved were convicted locally of all kinds of crimes and malfeasance after this all went down. But you ended up with just cities or townships, whatever you want to call them, that could not afford the monthly maintenance on the stadiums because the Arena de Amazonia, which is in Manaus, in Brazil, it cost them, well, this is back in 2015, but it was costing them $233,000 a month to maintain.
It's crazy. Yes.
And it's worse. The financial situation in Brazil is worse than it's been in a long time. So,
well, Brian Hepburn brings up something else. This is one. Who remembers the World Expos, the World's Fairs?
Yeah, but those sites were reused and repurposed multiple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but so I guess some still have few landmarks. I went to one actually in New Orleans or outside of New Orleans one year. That was so funny.
Well, I think 64, 68. I can't remember which year specifically, but I mean, that location, that site's featured quite often, but it's very iconic.
Yeah. But yeah. It's just really sad to hear these stories about, and it's like the poorer the country is, the poorer the area, the more they get taken advantage of, because like you said, they take the ghetto areas and deal with that. But, the high, they didn't do it with the high end society neighborhoods down there, though. The people that could fight or could raise a cane about it, they didn't mess with them, but the poorest of the poor, like you said, had no chance.
And then again, I mean, that was the World Cup event, which took place before the Olympics, right? Then the Olympics rolled into Brazil, and they destroyed more favelas and more.
Bigger.
And they wasted more money, and it's terrible. And again, they have a ton of poor people, and not poor the way Americans are poor,
right?
Poor, like an entirely type of poor that you can't possibly understand.
We know some missionaries to Brazil that work down in the Manaus area, and the poverty is beyond belief. I mean, it is crazy to the poverty that's down there, and the I think it's that specifically is a good case about illustrates the problem with too much government support with taxpayer funded anything like stadiums and stuff like that, because you know who's going to use a stadium after? At least in this case, like what we're talking about with American stadiums, there is the pressure to the private for-profit company to put something up towards it. Of course, like Buddy said earlier, they're trying to do it as free as possible, but they're not going to be able to do it. But down in this, like in Brazil, when you got a World's Fair, I mean, the Olympics or the World Cup, where's your for profit? It's like you almost have to give these outside organizations everything they want, and who's going to pay for it? It's 100% taxpayer funded, So
again, there's a lot of things that are promised with these, especially the world events, World Cup and the Olympics and whatever else. And every time these entities are investigated, they are found corrupt and lacking, and you never get the yield. There are a handful of people that make a lot of money, and then that's it.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, the Olympics were even worse with white elephants than you could. I mean, I feel like they were so taken advantage of. And again, Rio de Janeiro has problems that could have been dealt with all of that money that went into building things that are never going to get used again. They never plan for the future, unfortunately, or they don't look at that. And they can't find any use for them. I mean,
but that's the problem with that pipe dream, like we talked about earlier. The promise that everybody's going to benefit. They talk about all the pluses, like pie in the sky, very naively, like it'll come and everybody. But we see the reality. It does not work that way. Only a few people benefit out of it.
Well, and again, we'll just. I'm going to give you one last number because again, I've been whining about this for a while. I feel. But they spent $12 billion in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil to put on those games, to organize those games. $12 billion.
Yeah, that's just that just makes you cringe when you think about that. So all for some about 6 weeks of fun, and a lot of people left a lifetime of picking up from it. So. And Lisa said they could sell shares like the Packers to have a worthless paper to help subsidize. Yeah, well, but see, the Packers is one of those. I don't know about. I've always heard that they were publicly owned. Because like the season ticket holders actually own part of the team. I've never looked into it, but I don't know how true that is.
For me, I mean, I don't know how to deal with that. I ultimately, all I'll say is this: there's no upside. There's just I continue to see this. There's no upside for public funds to be spent on these things. None.
No.
Business development doesn't come with this.
No.
Civic development doesn't come with this. There isn't enough forethought involved in it. Infrastructure is not adequately laid out in any other way than to just support the developments of these massive complexes, and yet it neglects the areas around it, which it could have been. If you're going to spend that money, expand the project slightly to service the other aspects of the area or to future-proof the area. It's just none of this makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. I understand. It's a very big issue. I know, like other teams in the NFL are now facing stadium renovations. 20 stadiums get 25, 30 years old. And then see, that's another part of it that really ticks me off is that yeah, you put these billions of dollars into stadiums, and within 3 years, they're already complaining they're not modern enough. They have to already be upgraded, and it's like there's never
Well,
enough.
it's that lack of future proofing that comes along with it, right? And that's the other thing. When an architect puts something together, do they have a plan for modernization, for easy modernization of the facility? Because oftentimes it's like, well, we didn't have enough space for this, we didn't have enough space for player care, and all
Hmm.
of that. It's insane. The Bird's Nest Stadium. What, I didn't see that one. Hang on, the Bird's Nest
Okay,
Stadium
the
in South
bird's
Florida.
nest.
Plans to no that yeah no I hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't. Yeah, I mean, because it's a single use facility. I mean, when they
None of
do
that
it, they won't go back.
None
You
of it
know.
makes sense. I mean, in Vegas right now is spending a ton of money on this F1 event that's coming up there, right? The Formula One event.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is dumb. I mean, it'll be an event. They'll bring, they're going to bring money into the hotels and casinos and all that other stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what does it do? It, it's going to screw up Vegas. I mean, Vegas right now, they want to be the jewel,
Hmm.
but
Well, because that I mean Vegas, like I said, 97, 96, 97. When we were there, it was crowded as anything, and even back then, I cannot imagine what it's like nowadays.
oh, it wasn't the Vegas meetup, which I just got back from a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
It was crazy busy, super bonkers. In it was even an off time of the year. Not to
Yes.
mention the fact that the convention that's there at the same time, which is now CinemaCon,
Hmm.
rather than the Star Trek convention that used to draw people before, which is a little later in the year and when it's incredibly hot. But outside of the weather being favorable, the strip at times is unwalkable. It's unenjoyable.
Hmm.
Crime, drugs, all kinds of problems are out in the open. And you know, I loved Vegas. And
So,
now the only reason I visit is to do the meetups. So there you go.
so is it that bad on the strip now? I mean, like if you go out, because it seemed like in the 90s, where it's like you just walked down, it was not a big deal. I mean,
Now you have people sleeping against the wall on the street. You have people sleeping on the pedestrian bridges that you were familiar with the escalators and elevators and things.
hmm.
Um, the Bally's was in the process of converting to the Horseshoe, which has been renamed to, but they're rebuilding a bunch of stuff for that area. You have more and more construction going to be taking place over the next several years. The F1 event is going to be a hot mess for the strip because I believe part of the track is going to run down the main strip, which means you've closed down the major thoroughway for all the hotel casinos.
Wow.
Um, all the back routes to get to and from, like I think it's Koval and a couple of the other streets there are already starting to be congested, and they were never really designed for heavy traffic. They were normally for deliveries and for people to get in and out of parking structures. Um,
Mm, wow.
but yeah, downtown Vegas is always see that's true, but
Yeah.
the strip is much worse. And what's really strange is whenever they have a flooding event, it kills people.
Oh,
I mean,
jeez. See,
yeah,
we didn't when we were there. It didn't seem like the strip was that bad, but
it is
then
now.
it is.
And
Wow.
well, they've walled in, like used to be able to there was a curb right along the street for the strip, right? Well, they widened the driving lane on each side, and so they built a wall right
Hmm.
up against what the new curb is, and it just kind of tunnels people down the strip that way.
Oh, jeez.
And everything has those pedestrian bridges now, spaced about a half a
Yeah.
mile apart to a mile apart. And it, like I said, I mean, and they're going to put they're going to put F1 cars on that street. Oh, and what's interesting is behind the Paris Hotel,
Hmm.
which is across from Bellagio. That's going to be where one of the grandstands is, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. What they will do. Let's say Brian said even as old as the Coliseum is, he still goes to the games.
It is. I mean,
Is there's one?
but Brian, you have to admit it needs work. Needs work.
Yes. But hey, I tell you what, as long as the tickets are cheap, it can be a dump as far as I'm concerned. So,
Maybe so.
oh my gosh, hey, there you go. At least they rebuilt Fenway after Godzilla and King Ghidorah destroyed
There you go.
LOL. There you go. That's why we need some kaijus to come destroy some of these stadiums to
Well,
rebuild.
it actually helps. It would help with redevelopment. That's for sure.
Yeah, there
I
you
don't
go.
know. I have a feeling. I have a feeling Vegas will have to be completely remade on the Strip in the very near future. I think you're going to see a lot more hotels come down and get rebuilt in the near
Yeah,
future.
so the Tropicana is still standing. It looks like from that picture, the Tropicana Hotel, it's still standing.
I I
Oh,
think I would have noticed if it was gone because
okay,
it was. I liked the kitschiness of that hotel.
yeah.
So
I
because
remember the elevators. The
it was
Welcome Tropicana, the Isle of Las Vegas, where players win and winners play. That
yeah.
rang in our head on
Yeah,
the elevator every time.
it's very kitschy, it's very old Vegas at
Mhm.
times. I mean, that's one of those places. It's like there's not a lot of old Vegas left unless you go to,
Frontier. I know.
the
I remember seeing the '70s shows with Frontier, the
yeah,
Frontiers
yeah.
out there. Well, that was gone many years ago. But yeah,
I mean, I have stories about my I won't talk about my favorite casinos back then, but the one of my favorite films to watch because it's the strip that I grew up with is the Bond film Diamonds Are Forever.
hmm
Because that has the strip that I remember as a young person.
mm.
And then there was no new strip back then.
And that's always kind of cool. Is when you equate it to what you grew up with and
Yeah,
things like that.
and and and,
So
and the weirdest part was like Circus was a draw for 100 different seasons.
Circus, I remember Circus. We
Yeah,
went
but
down there once.
now that is the most rundown place I've ever seen in my life.
It's still wow. It's
It's
amazing. It was kind of rough even back in the '90s, but still, if it's for it to
yeah,
be that bad, it's
yeah, the Desert Inn and golf course. Yeah, now
mm,
that's the Wynn property. Yeah.
yep, exactly. So we got some of this thing. So Circus still looked like the last time I went there in the '80s. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean,
just,
in their miniature theme park development effort, the
mhm,
dome
yeah,
was kind of fun. Now it's not so much.
yeah.
Just like when the MGM Grand put in their kind of theme park thing, which they don't even have anymore, from my understanding. I don't know because
Yep.
I usually don't even venture into the MGM anymore. They took out so many of the cool features there that
Hmm.
I forget it.
All I
Yeah.
remember about MGM is my dad paid for his vacation because he knew how to read those slot machines.
Yeah.
He had a way to look, and he knew he could play them and actually won some good stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I feel like I took us off on a tangent, but it's
no,
all
it's
right.
okay. We're running down anyway
All
with
right.
minutes
Yeah.
here, so I didn't mind a
Yeah.
tangent because the only other thing, it was we didn't really have time to do justice to anything else, but we did get with that with the talk about this, about the government financing. We can let's see, we got about 3 minutes left, but
Yeah.
basically, the Pat McAfee story that you mentioned, we'll
Oh,
just look at it real quick here.
yeah.
Basically, like the whole thing is, I didn't even know who the hell this guy was. I was watching this summer or this last football season.
Yeah.
They kept bringing him on, I was like, who's this loudmouth idiot talking on
College. Well,
college game day? Yeah, I'm
yep.
like, I was just like, I annoyed him. I'm not a fan, but basically, and he's a punter for all things, but he walks away from a $120 million deal with FanDuel. They have not released the terms with ESPN, but when you look at the ESPN five top personalities, Wojciechowski 5 years, 35 million; Adam Schefter 5 years, 45 million; Stephen A. Smith 12 million a year; Joe Buck 60 to 75 million; Troy Aikman 5 years, 92.5 million. Then now what this guy makes, and they're talking about the PR nightmare because at the same time Disney and ESPN are laying off a lot of people.
Oh, and the thing is, this guy is not a Disney brand because he uses a lot of bad words and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this paycheck that Disney's going to write him is going to be crazy.
It's
So,
yeah. While at the same time they're getting rid of people because like you to that point there, they said he's a proven talent. Da da da. He said, yeah, he basically said during ESPN's presentation to advertisers that he wouldn't swear nearly as much when his show moves to ESPN, but we ain't changing a damn thing. I'm not going to swear much, but we ain't changing a damn thing. How about that? So, but yeah, I don't know.
I think this is gonna. Look. ESPN's got all kinds of problems. They got to bring in a different demographic. They have to bring real sports fans back. This is one of the shows where real sports fans were going, but this is going to be nothing but bad news. I'm not a fan of Pitaro. Someday you and I can talk about ESPN and how it changed since Skipper left, but
absolutely
that'll be down the road.
We'll have to set something up on that with a conversation, because I'd like to go down that much, because you said one thing about getting sports fans back. And I'm telling you, my first instinct with this guy, I don't want him. I mean, why are these networks automatically associating the loudmouth, annoying jerk to be what the average sports guy wants to listen to?
Yeah, well, you can take one of those guys on a network, right? But ESPN's full of them. They're chock full of these annoying personalities, and of course they're woke as F. I mean, I don't curse a lot, you know that, unless it's a Sunday night late show. But nobody wants that political junk in their sports. That's not why they do it. So
no, I know. But see, and it could be generational. But he's a youngster, younger guy. He likes the show. It's funny. He does WWE, and it's all for different people. But
no, but see that demographic, Buddy's that demographic, right? That, and I thought he was a unique talent. He had great guests. They had excellent banter, but he's kind of mouthy, and he's not going to translate well. Number one, on ESPN, and two, his fans ain't going to follow him. So they're counting on every one of these people being there. But the minute they detect that he's not being authentic, right? That's the big word nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what they fell in love with.
Yeah, it's not going to translate well.
And they're not going to follow him, because the whole thing, you try to get viewers on YouTube to go to Twitch, or Twitch to come to YouTube, is very difficult too. I mean, it's something that's just like a medium like that, people don't necessarily translate between the two. So, but that's a very good point on that. And let me say hi to AFK. Hey, AFK. So let me see. I'll send you something. Let's say here.
I hate to do this.
I know you do. I know you know. I was just putting something to you in the private chat.
Okay.
And it's okay. It will be good. It'll be good. I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up with everybody in a little bit.
All right. I tell you what, I'm gonna do this and say I gotta step out. These are the new premium items I'm going to start having available at meetups and things like that. And if I get enough people interested in them, I'll figure out a way to sell them to y'all. They're beautiful hats. I'm not going to make any money on them because they cost so much, and shipping. By the time they're shipping, these hats are about $40 a piece. So, that I'll eat that for a while. Let's just say that. So, but if y'all are interested and you're going to be at a meetup, I have a decent chance I'll have like 5-10 of these with me to sell off. So you guys are fantastic. I appreciate you all. Thanks for having me on again, Dad.
Absolutely. Man. Can I ask you one last question that you had to leave though? What do you know about July 12th, 1979?
Oh man, I don't know.
Comiskey Park, demolition, disco. Do you remember Disco Demolition Night?
I don't.
Okay. We'll kick that down the road then for another time.
Okay, we can definitely do that. Yeah.
I will hold the story. I won't tell anybody else here, but we'll have to do that down the road. Everybody, the Great Culture Casino, thank you for coming in for a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask my dad about it now and spoil it for myself. But I'll see you soon. Love you guys.
Watch the video. Take care, Culture. Bye. Thank you as always.
Bye.
And that, folks, is the Great Culture Casino coming in for a little bit tonight. Got him for an hour for a little chilling stream tonight. So we got 10 of y'all still here with us tonight. And thank you for being here. So, at this point, I'm going to kind of like just see what else we want to talk. If there's anything going on in the news, if there's anything of interest there, I will preview this kind of with you guys. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see what Brian had to say here. ESPN and Fox Sports are not compelling for hardcores in general enough for normies. It's a strange position. You don't find Bard and diners with them playing 24/7 like the old days. Yep. No, no, it is really finding that balance. It's, you know, I I gotcha. I gotcha. But I thought Buddy's point was very, very interesting to see the difference between generations sometimes, what works for one may not work for the other. And, like you said, is, one audience, one place may not translate well in another, major network. So, all right. Bye, Balzette. Glad you come. I'm glad you came in though for a bit, Balzette. Thanks for being here. So, but if anybody's heard of Disco Demolition Night, well, or this is what it talked about. July 12th, 1979, the night disco died. Comiskey Park in Chicago, Illinois, the south side of Chicago. Yeah, you know, it was a thing, true thing. Former a rock DJ that lost his job started this event, and well, let's say the rest is history. Quite interesting. Um, so, the 24-year-old disc jockey had turntables. So they had this promotion at Comiskey Park to blow up disco records, and really became a. Let me see. There you go. I'm going to play just a hair of it. You got a little bit there. Let's see. We got. You never see when you see smoke like this. There you go. That's a little bit of it. So I'm going to hold this story for another time with when we could get culture back on it. If you're older, you probably remember this story. It's one of the examples of baseball promos going wrong. Exactly. It was really, really dumb. Bill, I think it was a Bill Feck that was the owner. I mean, he was kind of an outrageous owner. He would do crazy things and stuff. And oh, they it got out of control very easily. So that was a different thing that we've got to look at sometime. But like I said, tease you with that for now. We'll get culture on, and maybe he can look at it and get some expert commentary with that. But yeah, it's interesting type of things like that, which you've seen with bad sports promotions. They can really 360, well, I say 180 on you in a hurry. So it's interesting to see the history of that. It reminds me of a scene out of Airplane where the plane's so low, and they say radio station says where disco never dies, and then the plane takes out the transmitter, and yep, disco died. So it's something we can look forward to. So, all right. Well, I'm just going to see real quick. Let's see. Looking at some stories here. Wow. This one not. Crap. I don't. Yeah, I hate when I try to pull something up and they want to do an ad thing on it, but nope, no ads. But let's see. Just taking a look for some other articles here. So how are y'all doing tonight? Let's see. Let's see. Yay, we're about 2 weeks from our vacation. It's going to be really, really neat to see what happens coming up and things like that. So, ooh, let's see 36 things to do in Florida. Let's see. I was trying to. Yeah. Let's see. We're going to take a look at some Florida things that are here. So we're going to look at here. 36 things to do in Florida, the ultimate bucket list. Oh, crap. Come on, stop pop-ups. There you go. Devil's Den. Ooh. So it's 54 feet deep depth. Deep can't talk. So, you got, oh, wow. If you like snorkeling, scuba, rent a cabin. That's a lot of thing around here is a lot of the camping opportunities in Florida. If you can survive the Florida heat, don't camp in Florida before September. Dear God, that was horrible. Even the Panhandle last year. Uh, you know what? Get a yurt. The missus picks on me. She tells me I glamp or I like glamping, but I don't care. I like my AC in Florida in the summer. Um, yeah, it's you gotta have it, folks. You gotta have Jenny Springs. This is near High Springs, Florida, along the Santa Fe River. It's probably in northeastern Florida. You're going to see a lot of the areas in Florida tend to be like springs, cold water, springs that you float down or dive or some caverns like that. Some of these accessible caverns of sand and limestone bottoms at the spring. So inner tubes, kayaks, paddles, boards, and more. Yeah. So if you like that type of stuff, there's plenty of opportunities in Florida. Itchotachny is one that we know. Um, and look at the blue water that's there. The Ringling Museum is in Sarasota, so it's you know from the John Marble Ringling Museum art, antiques displays antiques and modern works to the Circus Museum at the Ringling. So yeah, it's tied into the Ringling Brothers Circus that we all know from over the years. Bach Gower, Bach Tower Gardens. That is one that I have not seen before, but it's in Lake Wales, Florida. This is really in the middle of nowhere, Florida. You have got to be going there for a purpose to go there. So let's see. Oh, Disney World. I put Disney World on a bucket list. I don't know about that. Universal Studios. Okay, I think this one just lost me with that Dome Island, dome houses in Florida, close to Marco Island. Hmm. Oh wow, that could be neat. Out on the water like that. I don't know. I I don't know. Has anybody ever stayed at one of those type things? Because that would be kind of interesting to to be like really truly located over the water out like that. Let's say Kennedy Space Center, the Sunken Gardens, Clearwater Beach. Yeah, the beaches in Florida. If you really the beaches on the Panhandle are the better beaches. They're the whiter sand, bluer water. Dry Tortugas National Park. This is a place I would love to go, but it's east of the Key West. 7 islands of the park are surrounded by coral reefs. This is one. It's got a loggerhead, lighthouse and turtles. So and it's got a fort. One of the Fort Jefferson, I believe, is the name of the fort that's out there in Dry Tortugas. So yeah, Buddy Hepburn. Yep, we all do. My kids have hit me up for going to Epic Universe when it opens. I've told people from England too. You want to go? I'll go with you. The kids have actually put that on a calendar because they're so ready to go see that. I don't. I think the Mario stuff, the Nintendo, is really what they want to see. And hello to you, Rowan McPhee. Welcome. Good to see you tonight. So we got 9 of y'all good folks here still hanging out. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side and hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already on the YouTube side. Uh, Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, Florida. If you ever go to St. Augustine, America's oldest city, it's a good fort to go. It's a masonry fort, but it's made out of coquina shells and stuff mostly, versus brick and brick. A lot of your Civil War forts. See, of course, they don't have a picture. There we go. Here you go. See, there's a lot of the coquina, different type of brick made in the fort versus your Civil War forts, more of the red brick type of a construction. So either way, when we cover Fort Pulaski on either detours or one of my history streams, when I finally get those going, you're going to understand what happened that caused these brick and masonry forts to be outdated in the American Civil War. But as forts go, they're wonderful places to visit. Yeah, so Of course, we know that Castillo de San Marcos, Daytona International Speedway, which is just a speedway. Just four left turns, right, and a gas pedal. But I know I'm being rude to the NASCAR fans out there, but I don't know NASCAR. The three sports, if you're in the chat, what are sports you don't get into? You know, I never got into golf. I never got into NASCAR. I really did. I could play bowling, but I did not want to watch bowling. But if there's any that y'all have, yeah, that y'all don't watch, let me know there. So, and Brian says that the boys have been dropping that we want to go to Super Mario World at Universal Studios big time since it opened. Absolutely, Dad, we gotta go. Are we? Or like the Simpsons? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah. So at least if they're not doing that to you, you're okay, Brian, so far. But hey, I know. Butterfly World is a place in Coconut Creek. I think that's on the East Coast. I'm not. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale, so that would be East Coast. Duval Street, Key West. Key West is a big party town down at the end of the state. Lots of bars, bar crawls. Has the Hemingway House. If you ever go, they have the six-toed cat and all the cats down there. The Hemingway was famous for. The descendants of them are still alive, and they overrun the house. It's just it is. If you do go to Key West, it's worth hitting the Hemingway House. Although even though as a teenager, I was kind of struck by the sunbathing. Yes, out in public. It didn't matter. It was like quite eye opening as a teenager. So hey, go back? Sure. Why not? You know, have some fun, Dad. You know. Let's see where we go with this. We got Legoland. That's another one in Florida that we got. They the only problem is I don't know, do you guys in California have a Legoland? And I'm curious by that because our kids were younger with Legoland, but we never really went there. We stuck with Disney and we stuck with Disney and we stuck with Universal. And I'll tell you what happened with Legoland. We went one time when the kids were really, really small. But the problem when we got there was, I couldn't ride the rides with them. The stupid rides were just like built for tiny people. If you had any size to you, even if you were tall, you didn't fit. If you were wide, you didn't fit. It was not a comfortable part for us. So, and our kids were not the smallest. They were on the upside. Yeah, but he said, yeah, you have it. Only went once, but only to shop. Because I was curious because see, our rides here were built for small people, pretty much. Like little kids. Even I could not fit in some of the rides, or it was very, very difficult. So, but hey, it was nice though. If you have the real small ones, it's really good. Let's see, Naples has a botanical garden, which is in Southwest Florida, down by Fort Myers. If you got gardens, many gardens in Florida here that you can come see. The Dali Museum, Salvador Dali, his works here. So, and that's in St. Petersburg. Yeah, I remember that when I was at University of South Florida. Wynwood Walls in Miami. Not quite sure what that is, but there's a picture. It's a murals. Oh, wow. The street murals. Oh, that's interesting. So then you got the Everglades, which you can do airboat tours, hiking trails. Watch out for gators if you're in there. So, yeah, I think this is probably an understatement. It is one of the best places to see alligators in Florida. Yeah. And Brian says Legoland would be last on the list to go to. Yeah, especially as old as your kids are. Yeah, I would agree. You really need your kids to be a lot smaller, unless you just love Legos, but the rides really are hard to do. Busch Gardens is a great theme park in Florida and in Tampa Bay itself. It's like, really, really good rides. So, and then of course, this is a famous iconic spot here. Everybody gets pictures with the southernmost point in Florida or in the U.S. You know, you see that everywhere you go. Anna Maria Island. So the Venetian Pool. Some of these are Manatee Springs, a state park in Florida on the Swanee River. Again, folks, like it, that's a pool there, but many of these springs are very, very clear. And see, there's some manatees in there. Wikiwachi is a little town. It actually is actually a city of like 6 people, but it's preserved and it's famous for this. The Live Mermaids has always been famous for the Live Mermaid show, and you'll see a lot of the clear water again. The manatees in there. This one, folks, is not a fake. Okay, this is not a fake. Casadega truly is like considered a haunted place, or very uh, worldly, spiritual in a way. As this article is saying, it's psychic, known for psychics and medium. There is no kidding with that. People have reported down there that there's just these presences and things, and it could be a really freaky place to go sometime. But yeah, they call it a city, but it's like it says, a village. It's like you were in the villages. I get the village, the movie, but yeah, it's really a small, strange place, and it does. Yeah, like I said, streets and small homes are quaint but provide a specific energy. People have been known to say that they feel spirits down there. So yeah, that's if you like the supernatural, you like the mediums and stuff, that might be a stop for you. Miami Marine Meridian, uh, uh, Miami Marine Stadium is another place that's down there. That's kind of cool. See, Florida used to be a lot of these type of small attractions like this. Marineland up in St. Augustine was. You got this one here. You got Gatorland and near Orlando. And these used to make up a lot of what Florida was. These small type of touristy things before the big parks, the SeaWorlds, the Disney, the Universal, and all them came in and took over. So it's Vizcaya Museum of Gardens. That one I'm not familiar with. Florida's Volkswagen Graveyard. Oh, if you like Volkswagens, this could be interesting. Near Dade City, which is over near the Tampa area. Volkswagen Graveyard. Referred to as Disney World for Volkswagen enthusiasts. Features vintage VWs who can wander through a field of ancient VWs, parts, and more. Wow, over 300,000 cars there. Hey, go put that on your travel stop. And Juniper Springs is another one. So, like I said, a lot of springs behind us. Honda State Park, Blackfin. Crab Island is Destin. Destin's over in the Florida Panhandle. Destin's big spring break place, and a lot of people visit. And this is the Gulf. If you really want beaches and you want water, you want to go to the Panhandle. This is where the beaches are like this. More the East Coast, nothing like that. The Ocala National Forest, it depends on where you go in there. You got to find the right places to go, but usually we just drive through it on I-10, but lots of forest there. Silver Spring State Park is sort of close to that area, but yeah, lots of springs, a lot of parks. Mount Dora, which is down near Orlando. Just so many different things. So if you ever want to travel Florida, there's so many different things to do beyond just the Disney's and the stuff like that, the big high parks and stuff. So, but with that, thank you for joining me tonight for this Chillin' episode. We had culture for an hour and had a good conversation. Look forward to that. Look forward to more in the future. Thank you for everybody that's been here tonight. Appreciate your support. Make sure you hit that like button, sub if you haven't already on the YouTube side. Follow us on Twitch if you haven't already. So with that, I am going to do something real quick if I can do it right. So let's see here. Let's go here with this. Let me do a few show notes with real quick. We may be doing some Fortnite streaming in the next half an hour over on the YouTube side. So join us for that. if we do, um, make sure you hit your notifications, have it turned on, watch Twitter. Um, but a few program announcements tomorrow night. I'll be doing Fortnite with Liam Grey Wolf on Twitch. Could be simulcasting it over on the YouTube side, so be ready for that. But if not, the next stream we will have um, will be Friday night. Will be Fortnite After Dark. Friday After Dark Fortnite fun. So come to that. Could start a little before 11, but Friday night Mark's not going to be able to do the late night Fortnite, so I'm going to go ahead and run Friday After Dark this Friday. So join us for what is usually a raucous and crazy time. Then also Sunday night. This could be the last stream of the before we go take a couple weeks off. But join me for this Sunday night at 7 for the 43rd anniversary of the release of Empire Strikes Back from the movie theater in the movie theaters. We'll talk Empire. I'll show some of my collectibles from that movie, and hope to see you there. And some people that I've got coming on with me to just really have fun talking about Empire and sharing the memories of what many consider the best of all the Star Wars movies. That might be my last stream, but it depends on when we're ready, if we're ready, and how Monday goes. But if that's not the last stream will be on Monday night, another Sports Weekly with Dad Man. We'll talk about sports news stories that are out there. We got a bonus a little bit tonight because some things Castle really wanted to that Culture really wanted to talk about. Came up with some good ideas and had a fun discussion talking about stadiums and funding. So hey, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully it was a blast and something a little bit different. So, but as always, follow us on Twitter at DadmanWalking55 to see when we go live and for the latest news. Check out our live streams and our videos both on YouTube and Twitch at DadmanWalking55. So with that, thank you everybody that's been here tonight. Like I said, keep an eye on about the next half an hour or so for a Fortnite stream. Join us over there. Let's keep the party going. Make sure you bring your friends and let's just keep rolling. Next thing you know, we'll be 275 to maybe 300 before you know it. But hey, what's most important is you guys coming through tonight, hanging out and having fun and chatting with us. So on that note, I will say until I see you next time, bye all.